Yeah, I can. Yeah, just-
Okay, we'll open this meeting at December 11th, 5 p.m. Welcome anyone who's in virtually and all staff and council. So please note that this meeting is being broadcast and recorded. Recordings will be made available on the town's YouTube channel. Thank you. We acknowledge that this land on which we are gathered today is part of the ancestral land of the Chippewa, Ottawa, and Potawatomi peoples, referred to collectively as the Anishinabeg. No, just hang on. Anishinaabe. You know how many times I've practiced this word? Anishinaabe. There, thank you. It is through the connection of the Anishinaabe with the spirit of the land, water, and air that we recognize their unique cultures, traditions, and values. Together, as treaty people, we have a shared responsibility to act with respect for the environment that sustains all life, protecting the future for those generations to come. Ask anyone who has any counselor who has a declaration of pecuniary interest to declare it at the time. Look, do we have any delegates?
No delegates.
Any business arising from previous meetings?
Yes, your worship, you have item 5.1 under business arising from previous minutes.
Okay, the business arising is the short-term rental licensing bylaw,
Yes, ma'am.
and we have a mover and no second. So
So in this situation, I would ask that you read the motion and note the mover and ask for a seconder.
the mover is Brady. The motion is that the report by Adam Sabansky, CAO, and Ella Flynn, Executive Assistant Deputy Clerk, dated December 4th, regarding short-term rental licensing bylaw legal review and cost analysis be received. And that the draft licensing bylaw with any amendments be brought back to council for consideration with the corresponding zoning bylaw amendment and official plan amendment at a future public meeting. Do we have a seconder for this motion? And in that case, it's defeated.
I'll second it just for discussion if we want, because it's gonna, what happens if it gets defeated? It's done.
We're done.
For discussion.
Okay, so I would put your name down here. Okay, we have a seconder. So. Any discussion on this? Anyone want to speak to it? Did I see your hand, Kristen? Yes. Councilor Rodriguez, I mean.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, can I make an announcement before we go any further? I forgot to say that I'm taking the chair tonight because our mayor is tied up. Other business running behind and he's joining us for, sorry, I should have mentioned that ahead of time. Okay. The business somewhere.
Very torn by this proposed bylaw. I've never had an STR myself, nor had any financial interest in one, but I have lived beside them for over 30 years. I've experienced the good and the bad, and have an intimate understanding of both those pro and those against who have participated in this process. This, and hearing the familiar experiences and stories from the public, I was very much looking forward to being a part of bringing in a licensing program. But having an impartial lens is important so that balance is achieved and all are with merit. With the inability to prohibit corporate listing, corporate companies, I view this as a windfall for multi-home investors. It's quite common to list each property as an individual entity to protect from liability of one against the other. Regardless of shareholders listed, it is legal. It is a legal means of a separate owner of a property with no shared interests of one to the other. This is unfortunate for the very need to curtail the industry in this way. I view STRs in three different ways: the multi-business ventures, second, property investors only looking to spend some of their time in this community and rent out when able to offset costs and improve their properties for eventual retirement or pass along to their next generation, etc. The last being property owners renting out part of their residence to help offset expenses so that they continue to live in and enjoy this community. Despite some looking at the rental fees and thinking all are getting rich, it's quite frankly none of our business what their expenses versus revenues are. And our only concern is that visitors to this community are educated on the same bylaws we follow and that the home is safe and being used as a residence. Looking at a proposed bylaw that is more complex than the vast majority of licensee regimes where there is a much more larger amount of STRs, a bylaw that is prohibitive and unbalanced may very well not be possible to achieve realistically in some aspects and costly to those who are part of or bonded to this community and has no real tangible effect on restricting or eliminating multi-home investors who utilize residential properties as a business venture, which is not where I'd hoped we would be.
Thank you. Any comments?
Thank you. Yeah, the main reason why I wanted to second that one is to have discussion about this, because I do have some questions about some of the legal advice we got. The first one being, I'm not sure why we're being encouraged to not have a maximum occupancy, like a blanket occupancy that doesn't count guests. Occupancy by definition is people occupying a space. So I'm just wondering what that advice was from legal, that we can't have guests included in that maximum occupancy and why they redline that one.
Speak to this. So, are you referring to the section under background information? There's two bullet lists. The first list was all the comments from council, and then under discussion was the comments from legal. So they indicated the bylaw had divisions that were unclear, uncertain, or vague, contain similar overlapping concepts, discriminates who may hold a license by prohibiting corporations, or contains land use regulations that may intrude on zoning and site plan powers. So I don't recall them having any concern with the
Okay,
maximum occupancy. I think that was council that raised that concern.
okay, I apologize for that. I'm misreading that one then. Okay, so that's fine. The next one, I guess, which they definitely did, because I'm looking at the bylaw now to make sure I'm not making the same mistake twice. They did redline and cross out the corporations, as Councilor Rodriguez mentioned, but they also seems to suggest that we can't limit the number of licenses per person. So I'm wondering if they gave reasoning for that, because there's several large cities, Guelph in particular, that have deeper pockets than we do for legal, and they're limiting licenses to primary residence plus only one. So I'm just wondering what legal said on that. Yeah.
So we had included that originally because council wanted only one license per person. And corporations, basically, if we said one per person, but we allowed corporations to hold a license, then I can just go corporation, 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 corporation. So
Yeah.
we could include it, but that's a loophole that I think people would come up, they'd realize it pretty fast.
And I would agree, and that's the whole reason I brought up the corporation thing. I was just wondering if they said that. So that makes more sense
Yeah,
to me
it
there.
wasn't legal. It's staff.
Corporations person.
So I guess I kind of echo similar to what Councilor Rodriguez said, in the fact that I think I can agree with anyone that tells me that we're trying to find a solution to preventing the commercialization of neighborhoods. And perhaps if we can't limit corporations, that's why there's lots of municipalities going to owner occupied only. Because that's clearly the way to do it. Then if you can't limit the corporations. There's a lot more in this that I can come back to. I feel like I want to monopolize the time again. So I'll kind of end it there to see what other discussion we have.
Okay.
May I address the owner occupied comment? So that comment's been echoed by other councilors privately. In regards, and previously, the deputy mayor did mention preferring an owner occupied system. If council prefers to move towards solely an owner occupied system where the owner has to be on site for a short-term rental, they can defeat the motion at hand and put a new motion on the floor requesting that staff rewrites the licensing bylaw to only allow for owner occupied short-term rentals. And then staff will amend the bylaw accordingly.
Okay. Ms.
I
Rodriguez,
just want to say,
you just want to agree with the CAO?
no.
Oh, okay, I didn't want to
No,
put
you're
words in your mouth.
hopeful. No, because that was brought up in our previous discussions, and it was actually our CAO who mentioned that there are many Americans who own seasonal homes here. And that would create a problem in that sense. So there are also many people who own agricultural farms in our community that have those seasonal homes that they'll eventually retire to. We've had people standing in here that live outside of our community, but love the community, and eventually want to retire here. Possibly. So they're just looking to help offset those costs towards their retirement. We are in Ontario where we do have these property rights. The courts have decided that it's not in our purview to decide whether somebody can rent out or not rent out a property. So I think it's just a little bit of overreach. I think I still go back to, I believe that the purpose of a bylaw is to enforce the bylaws of this municipality already, and how you're expected to abide in our community while visiting here as a residential use. These are homes, private homes, and they should be treated as such.
Please do.
Thank you, Councilor Rodriguez. You're 100% correct. I did state most of that. And I was simply referring to the option to turn down this bylaw and direct staff to develop one where it's only owner occupied based on the council's comments. So in the end, it is council's direction that will prevail.
Any other comments, Mr. Baker?
Yes, your worship, thank you. I agree with both of these guys. Most of the stuff that we wanted in there is all the stuff they stroked out, right? So it's, again, the biggest one being the corporate owned. And if we can't stop them from being corporate owned, then to me, that turns that residence into a commercial entity. It's a money-making entity that we don't allow in our residential areas. So I don't know how we stop it. If we allow B&Bs to go or Airbnbs, we can't stop it. If we allow owner operators to only be the ones to get it, then how can we stop the ones that
Or what?
aren't owner operated? That's like, we have to have some kind of bylaw to, with some teeth, stop it from happening. So it's,
Okay. So do you have an answer to that?
Yes, I do. So if council was to choose to go with the owner occupied solution, the set fines would have to be amended so that anyone operating a short-term rental without a license or not meeting that requirement would receive a set fine.
we just up the fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, I, like back in the day, we had a cottage, we'd rent it out for a month of the year. And it was for your, same people every year, all friends, all, the biggest problem is you're renting to anybody that'll pay the money. You have no control of them. We have no control of them. And I'm saying the ones that are good, we want to keep, but apparently the law says we can't. So where does that put us? Robin certainly doesn't want to stick their nose in it.
No.
So that's.
Okay, so where are we at?
Well, we've got a lot of good discussion. I don't know if Councilor Wolfett had anything to add to that
Yeah,
yet.
it's pretty quiet.
I have a whole lot of problems with this whole thing, to be quite honest with you. the amount of rules that we put into here under this bylaw, there's not hardly a person in this community, including myself, can meet the bylaw that you're putting on a short-term rental. Just unbelievable restrictions. That you want to come into my house with the building inspector and you want to come into my house with the fire inspector. If I rent a house out for a month, none of that's required. If I rent my house out for a month to 5 years, that's not required. And yet you're gonna, a short-term rental, especially people that live in their own house, have got to bring in the fire department, the building inspectors to inspect their house before they can have a short-term rental. Like, I think it's just absolute overkill on some of this, some of these rules and regulations for the short-term rental. You're not gonna apply this to all in the community, including my own home, who we have guests come in there, their family or whatever, and I know this doesn't talk about family, not included, but come on, give me a break having to inspect your house for a short-term rental by the, to meet the building codes. All these rules in here about noise from within the house, and you can't go in your hot tub, and you can't do this, and you can't do that. What difference whether it's for one night or 31 days or 32 days? Like, it just didn't sit on, and believe me, you guys have did a lot of work. I said that the last time, I'm going to say it again. You only did what you've been asked to do. But this is kind of what I suspected in the first place, that it's going to be overkill. The amount of people we have in this community that have short-term rentals. I think I seen something the other day, and I was just saying to this to Mike there a few minutes ago. I seen a letter come through that says in this community, we're only looking at about 59 short-term rentals advertised in this community. And there's only between 4 and 6 of them that are owner occupied. So even if we're sitting here talking about making all these rules for owner occupied, there's only about half a dozen of them that are owner occupied. And here we are putting together a bylaw of this magnitude. That's really going to put a lot of pressure on a lot of, well, those 4 or 6 people. Now they got to meet all this criteria that a 30-day or 31 day a month, they don't have to meet if it's over 30 days. So that's why I say my words are overkill, and maybe that's a little strong, but that's the way I feel about it. Like, do I know what the answer is? I really don't. The other thing that I'm just not sure we're ready for this yet. I'm not sure we listen to the people, the public meetings, because I've had letters come to me saying, like, what is the matter with you ding dongs? We don't want no rentals in our neighborhoods. Aren't you listening? I'm sure some of you fellow councilors have got those letters too. You didn't listen to us. We want them banned. We don't want them in there.
We can't do that.
I know.
So,
I know. That's why I have a problem with this thing, is that all that red and the lawyers have just tied our hands here with this discussion about how we cannot restrict commercial or in residential neighborhoods. So I
probably made your point, Bob, so.
yeah, okay. I'm just not comfortable with it.
Thank you, Councilor Wolvet. So we put together the bylaw based on evidence the council provided a number of months ago. At the previous meeting where we looked at this item, we did go over a few items which council had concerns with, and we summarized those as part of the report. This bylaw can be as strong or as weak as council sees fit. We can utilize this current bylaw and remove clauses that council feels that are not appropriate, or we can add clauses that council feels appropriate. So we are looking for direction tonight on what council would like to see removed, amended, or changed in this bylaw, so we can bring back a final bylaw based on those recommendations. Or cut our hands up as well.
I just have one quick thing just to respond to Councilor that just for discussion's sake is if you can't outlaw the corporation piece, that's why people or municipalities are moving to owner occupied only, because owner occupied means that 123 Main Street is listed as your principal address, and corporations don't have a principal address. That's from my understanding of why municipalities have went that way, because they got the same advice we just got, that you can't do corporations straight out. But that principal residence piece is the workaround for if a council decided to go to owner occupied only, that's why.
Okay, Ms. Rodriguez.
Thank you. What about limiting the amount of licenses that are given out each year? would that be an option to curtailing? Obviously corporations can eat up those licenses and still hurt people. Or can a new preference be given to people who have second homes within the community? That's my next question. And I still really, to go to Bob's point, only 4 to 6 are owner occupied. So and there's so many that do it for good reasons that they should not be left out of this. And I would really love to uncomplicate the bylaw.
You can answer to that, clerk?
Maybe I was trying to put my hand up before. I wanted to read something that the lawyer wrote about corporations. I think it gives a little bit more information. So his point is about discrimination. So bylaws which operate unfairly and are partial and unequal in their operation between different classes are discriminatory and therefore illegal. A bylaw will not be characterized as discriminatory simply because it is directed at one particular person or lot. Like if dog owners have to get a license, that's not discriminatory. But to be discriminatory, the bylaw must discriminate by giving permission to one person and refusing permission to another, and must be carried out with improper motive of favoring or hurting one individual without regard to public interest. So that's why they're saying you can't just say, you're a corporation. No, you're not. Yes. That's the catch-all.
And to add to that, that's what probably would challenge
Yeah,
your
that's,
so many licenses a year.
that's what I was just gonna say.
You would have to come up
How
with
do you pick?
a bulletproof program where you, if it's first come, first served, so be it. But you're going to be challenged in court for discrimination based on that statement.
I actually like that statement because that kind of goes to what I was trying to convey under noise bylaws. That's exactly a very good description.
Daisy, did you want?
No, just to comment about the 31 days. I think after 31 days, you become a renter and fall under all the renter, like a full-time renter by provincial laws. So that's where that kicks in. So they still have to meet. They still have to meet fire, they still have to meet building code, that kind of stuff. So the only other thing I can think of is, can we what am I looking for? Can we make a rental must be 14 days or longer? That gets rid of the stags coming to the thing on a Saturday night for the big party. So you're gonna get the families that are out for a holiday and not partying all. I don't know, I just thought of that.
Yeah,
14 days, sorry, through the chair.
Oh, good.
14 days may be a challenge because most people rent for a week when they go on vacation. But
That's what I wanted a challenge.
it may be worth looking at. I'm not sure if we can.
Yeah,
Just like,
I just,
So, but,
like I say, we're trying to build something for 10% of the renters.
so,
Right.
but,
well, to that, if I may. Oh, sorry.
yeah, I think I'm gonna take this moment just to make a couple of my comments, and can we not just, anybody who operates an SCR, can we not put it into our official plan and zoning bylaw that they need to be commercial? And have some rules in our zoning bylaw, what makes them commercial? Like half of it's in this bylaw, but I'm just thinking, wouldn't that simplify things? If it's in the zoning bylaw that you're, or official plan, that you're allowed to have an SDR, then hey, go get your license. Like that would have to be in it too. But do we have to have this convoluted, not convoluted, it's very explicit, but it's so. No. So many rules for this bylaw that, yeah.
So I'll have to ask Mr. Melanson to back me up here, but if you wanted to move it from a licensing your zoning bylaw, there's ways to make that happen. You would be looking for each individual short-term rental operator to basically come in to get a site-specific zone, which you would end up creating a new zone for short-term rentals, which means they would have to go through a rezoning to operate a short-term
Right, and that way it would be allowed, but at least the whole neighborhood would be aware, and if all the people came in and complained, and I would suspect that, councils would pay attention to. Do you want commercial in your residential neighborhood?
Actually, and you can assist me here through your worship. Your current interim, if you will, official plan policy says that if you are an STR of 3 bedrooms or more, you require a rezoning. So that's the current policy that was put in as an interim. So if we had to go and enforce, you've kind of got most of it there now. To say that if you are an STR of 2 bedrooms or less, you do not require a rezoning. If you are more than that, you do. And the whole point of that interim policy was to set a standard that said, okay, is renting out a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom unit for short-term accommodations any more problematic than, say, Ella renting the same 2-bedroom unit for a year, 6 months. And it was to give a boundary line that said, okay, we can accept this much. Anything beyond that, the bigger houses, there was a means of a public discussion that could occur, hence the rezoning. Because as you know, tonight we have 2 which have public meetings attached to them. Hence, if it was more than 2 bedrooms and someone wanted to do that, they would be forced into doing a site-specific zoning amendment. So you have that now, to some extent.
So to enforce that, we'd have to have a complaint.
So there would have to be, I think, we need to still proceed with some zoning bylaw amendments to put that into force. I don't know if we need to clean up anything within that interim language. But if you leave it as it is, I'm blanking on what exactly it is, but I'm quite sure 2 bedrooms is below. And then Randy, do you?
Yes, so through your worship. So that's correct. Anything over 3 bedrooms does need a zoning bylaw amendment, as well as I think a site specific, site plan application as well as a requirement. I know when staff was going through these requirements, the concept of what price that might be to a short-term rental owner came up as well, just to put out there for, I guess, thought. Because that can be quite a long process depending on what's being proposed for a zoning bylaw amendment. But that is correct. Currently, it is a zoning bylaw amendment and a site plan for anything over 3 or more.
Yes,
In addition to that, it would be very challenging to force compliance. Because our zoning bylaw currently does not have set fines. Therefore, you'd be sending out compliance orders and court orders to bring people into compliance. So it would be very long process to bring someone into compliance who doesn't, who's ignoring the bylaw. Is there an ability to amend the zoning bylaw to have set fines?
That I'm not sure. I don't believe.
to have a separate bylaw, we need to have fines.
And that's
Yeah.
the licensing
Yeah,
bylaw.
okay. Ms. Rodriguez,
I think Mr. Basie was first.
Mr. Basie,
Yes, your worship. With the 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom, we're still limited that we cannot restrict how many people are in that house. Did I not read that?
it's 2
We
per
were
bedroom.
allowed to say how many,
I thought it said 2 per bedroom.
yeah, I know that's what we put in, but I thought the lawyer said something,
Oh,
there's something in there, that we
No,
couldn't limit that.
That's Steve.
No, okay.
No, I think that was a clarification that was required because we talked about occupancy in 2 different areas. So they thought that was too ambiguous and we've already stated it in one section, so he had us remove it from the other.
Oh, okay, that. Then, yes.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Sounds good.
Oh, I'm sorry, you done, Ms. Basie?
Yep, thank you.
Just to speak to your option there. again, I would go back to this only benefits the multi-use developers or investors. They have the deeper pockets to be able
Oh,
to
of course. Yeah.
do this, and we're again not solving the problem of people in our
No.
community. And I think I don't think we're gonna get away with separating the two if we want to carry on with this. I just think we need to make it much less prohibitive in my opinion.
Well, we're not getting very far, are we? So,
Could I make a suggestion?
sir,
Not postpone this. Look at it again, but because I'd like to hear what Councillor Van Claveren has to say and the mayor himself on it.
sure,
So push this off till January and
definitely,
revisit it.
definitely, yes.
So that's a motion.
And-
Is that a motion?
And can I request that we get additional information from staff with the limiting licenses? Because I still can't wrap my head around that because we, or not we, but municipality limit taxi licenses, for example, all the time to X number of licenses. So I'm just wondering. It's always gonna be, well, what if, but if we're already, if municipalities are already limiting licenses like taxi licenses, I'm just wondering if we can look at how they can get away with doing that, but we can't limit another business license.
Right. So if we're gonna, look at this, the fines, I think are not appropriate. While we're talking about this bylaw, okay, the $350 if somebody that doesn't follow these rules, that's nothing. You get,
Not even a night rental.
like, why not, what's the matter with a minimum of $1,000 for every thing that or every fine? $200 in some of these cases, that's nothing, that's peanuts to anybody, a corporation or somebody who's into this business, so.
Everybody rich?
Hmm?
Everybody's rich?
Well, if everybody's, never mind. Yes. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you. Just two quick things. We did learn from sending this bylaw away to review. I think Ella was gonna bring this up. The max fine you can charge is 1,000. So in here, we had a double fine. So we said if the license was 700 and you didn't get it, you would get a double fine, which would be 1,400, which we can't do. We can only do 1,000. So if we're thinking about fines at 1,000. The other thing is I'm one way or another trying to persuade council to not defer or defer. I think it's great. We have questions to still get. I just want you to be aware that set fines likely would not be in place for next
No, because they
season.
have to go.
Because it's a 6 to 9 month process. I just want everyone to be aware that that's on the record.
Okay, well, I thought we'd get this done. Here we are, it's only December, go ahead.
I don't agree with you up in the fines, by the way. I mean, that we're a small community here. It's not like we got thousands of short-term rentals. But that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. But I did disagree also with the $700 licensing fee. And the reason I disagree with that, so I guess I better put my point on the table is people had said to me when we first started this, it's going to be nothing but a money grab. Here we are already going to charge enough money that we can get money to put in reserves, $13,000 or $14,000 more than we need. We'll put it in reserves and use it if we need to. I disagree with it. If you're going to charge a fee, a licensing fee, be reasonable. I don't think you should be worrying about reserves of a licensing program. The staff's already here, coming in, they're already sitting out there, they're already getting paid. There's money to be had to be taken in because somebody's a bylaw infraction, then the fine should cover that. But I don't agree with already making a reserve fund. I just don't agree with it. I think.
We have to be prepared, everybody doesn't follow. Isn't that how much is it gonna cost us legally?
Isn't that what the set fines are for? But yeah, anyway, that's just my opinion. I think we shouldn't be charging. It's like a user pay system. Now we're going to make money off of it. I don't.
So it's most cases with a set fine minimum of $1,000. If someone argues that set fine to court, you're not making your money back on that set fine. So that's why if you're going to be enforcing it through a bylaw, it's suggested to have a reserve fund for those legal fees and potential additional staff costs that you didn't comprehend in the beginning.
Okay, Mr. Brown Jr., last one, let's put this to rest for.
Just going back to Councilor Leonard, I think it's also the licensing fee is not part of the bylaw. So I would agree that the licensing fee has to be it should be cost recovery. In other words, however much it costs, don't figure out how much the program costs to run and runs. The bylaw refers to our fees bylaw, which is where that licensing fee would be. The bylaw itself doesn't have a number attached to it. So we can still, whether it's now or next meeting, proceed with, if we're looking at a bylaw and not worry about that license fee to pass a bylaw, because we can change that, because you would change it next year, for example, if it's an annual licensing fee. So if the program, if we budgeted $50,000 this year and ends up it was 60, you change that fee for the next year. So the fee itself is not set in stone in a bylaw here, because it scapegoats to the fees bylaw. So I just think that's important to note. And in terms of set fines, we can also, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but you can do municipal administration penalties, and that just applies to your property taxes. So there's options with MAPs, but again, I worry about dragging this out longer than we need to. So I would agree, it's valuable in waiting for Councillor Van Claveren. I think he's got stuff that he deserves to have his say on. But I also think if we're gonna be pushing that and we want to set fines, and we're looking at a situation where now we're looking at another summer without anything, and we need to at the very minimum register these properties at bare minimum for next year. That's all I wanted to say there.
Okay, thank you. So is everyone in agreement that we defer this bylaw or this, this licensing bylaw?
Can I just make one more statement, Nettie?
Sure.
Madam Chair, there was a letter come through about, I think it might have been sent to you and then you distributed around to us, maybe wanting to do away with. I think what it said was we didn't have enough discussion on whether even to have
Yes.
short-term rentals. It was addressed to you. But it said they don't think council gave it a fair shake to address that point about maybe we should not allow any.
We've been told we can't do that.
Well,
The province tells us this.
can't do any short-term rentals?
That is not an option.
Yeah.
Can't restrict.
The only option would be limiting to owner occupied. That's the only,
Mhm.
the only option, quote unquote, you can't ban them. The most restrictive you can get is restricting to owner occupied only, or principal residence only.
That answers that question, doesn't it?
Mhm. Yeah. Anyway, is everybody deferring this?
So before you defer, I'd like to be clear on what information that we're gonna come back
Well,
with
that's true.
in addition to the current report. We're gonna come back with information in regards to limiting the number of licenses issued. We're also gonna come back with information in regards to applying municipal administration penalties in lieu of set fines to help us around some of those costs of enforcing the bylaw. Is there any other clarifications that council wanted to be part of the next report when it comes back to you?
More comments?
We have the, sorry,
Okay, Bob, then.
I think clarification around all the rules around the bylaws and what's fair for a person that's got a short-term rental, for what I'm doing, living next door. So I can put on a party and disturb the short-term rental person because he's got all these penalties against him and I don't have any of them.
We don't legislate how homes operate. We only legislate how short-term rental operates.
That's my
So
point.
that's not something I think we can discuss. That'd be a council's decision whether or not you want to regulate such activities.
No, but that's what's in here.
You're 100% correct, sir, because it's a short-term rental and staff was asked to look into short-term rentals. And that's what we did. However, we have not been asked to look into a noise bylaw for the overall community. So we have not addressed that.
And I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for equality. How can we place the rules, these kind of rules on somebody and not on everybody? I don't think it's legal.
Well, I think, let me answer that, Nettie, yes, because they're disturbing the peace, you call the cops. That's the rules they go by, the ones who are beside the STRs.
What about me?
Well, same with you, if you're out there having a party and you're noisy and disturbing everybody, then people can call the cops on you,
Okay, no, who's gonna find me?
the cops.
Cops can't find you. We don't have a noise bylaw.
Wait, it's not a noise bylaw, it's disturbing the peace that they go by. Yes, I
Thank
think
you,
he's
Your Worship.
telling me to be quiet.
Counselor Wolvet, I understand what you're saying and I appreciate it. However, the direction staff was given previously was to develop a licensing program, which we have done. if yourself and the other counselors feel that that should be scrapped because it's not fair. And it's unduly picking on those with short-term rentals, then that is council's consideration to defeat this motion and ask us to abandon. However, that's not the direction we've been given at this time. So we'll continue to come back to you with a proposed licensing bylaw until you help staff to.
And you just asked. Is what do you want us to come back to council with? And I answered you. The bylaw. Penalties on the bylaw of noise and all that. I want you to bring that back and how we can adjust that. You asked the question, and we haven't passed any of this, so this is all just a draft.
You've asked us to bring you a short-term rental bylaw, which we have presented you today. In draft.
Right.
And looking for your suggestions, recommendations, and edits.
Yes,
If I may add to that, you also stated that anything that you don't necessarily have to defeat it. You can strip it down to what you think is fairest for the community as a whole. So that would address that.
Mr. Reason,
We have a copy of the interim bylaw that is there
along
with
with,
it. Yeah, please. It's not in there now, correct?
In terms of.
Though, when you were quoting.
Your
Oh.
worship,
The OP policy.
referring to the interim OP
That's
policy, official plan policy.
they're like.
Those are just policies. So until the zoning bylaw is updated, they're policies, they don't have rigor as a rule until the zoning bylaw is established.
To add to that, if council chose to go through the planning route, utilizing your existing official plan, we would have to amend the zoning bylaw to match. What we can do is after this meeting, we'll email a link to our official plan with the specific section to council so that you can review that at your leisure.
Thank you.
so will we defer this bylaw?
I would like
Bob?
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, okay. We had enough.
All
All-
those. in favor?
All in favor for deferring? Thank you. Well, next one. I hope it's a little quicker than the last one. Moved by Ms. Rodriguez, second by Basie, that the report prepared by Paul De Silva, Director of Public Works, dated December 6th, regarding the Hydro One Networks Incorporated easement agreement for Egremont Estates be received and bylaw 137 of 2023 be taken as having been read 3 times and finally passed, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the bylaw accordingly. Any comments on this particular bylaw? Lazy.
Yes, Miss Worship to. I guess it'd be. Do we get anything for that? Do we get any compensation for the fact that they're putting their property on our property?
Through your worship, no, there is no compensation. The actual piece of property was deeded to us through the subdivision agreement. It has a sanitary sewer there. So no, there's no compensation for this.
So it is our. Municipally owned property. And we're giving it to a corporation to use for. Why don't we try to be fit?
Thank you, through your worship.
Yeah.
So when the engineer and Hydro One designed the subdivision, which has yet to be substantially complete, they did not incorporate an easement for this purpose. So the lands are just transferred into our name as the agreement has been registered on title. The subdivision has not been substantially complete. So it's just a natural part of the subdivision process. So staff chose not to pursue that, given it is a public service.
A public service that we all pay dearly for. Well, I see it as we're taking our property and giving it away, and the subdivision guy didn't make any arrangements for it to put it there. So now we get nothing out of it.
That's Ms. Rodriguez.
Thank you. Traditionally, easements are used for structure. I believe that's correct. I look at I don't know what you call them, those alleyways you have here in Wyoming. They're a big bone of contention. Those are used for infrastructure purposes. At one time, they were for emergency services, I believe. So do we charge, or have we ever charged for those services to be running through? Which is what Mr. Vasey is asking why we don't. Have we never done that, and why?
Through the chair, if I may.
Yes, please.
So the old alleyways in Plympton-Wyoming are public road allowances. Technically, they're considered alleys because they're subpar for transportation of vehicles. Through municipal consent and provincial legislation, any utility that provides service to the public has the right to put that utility in our roadways. They do have to do so either through provincial law or through agreement with the town. Most utility companies have an agreement with the town. Either one does not necessarily have directly an agreement, but they are supported by provincial legislation. In this situation, the best location for what they're looking to install a transformer is on the pump station lands directly adjacent to the road allowance. So that is why they're asking for an easement over pump station lands to allow the installation of that transformer for that subdivision and our pump station.
Clear? All right. All in favor of this agreement? Carried, thank you. Okay, the next one. Next one is moved by second by Ms. Rodriguez, that the report by Ken Melanson, Manager of Planning and Development, County Lambton, dated December 1st regarding Main Street part lot control bylaw correction be received, and that bylaw 77 of 2023 be rescinded, and bylaw 138 of 2023 be taken as having been read 3 times and finally passed, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Any questions on that particular one?
This is, Ken, this is just a correction on the connecting of the foundations, and that correct? Were they through the amendment allows that to happen?
Your worship, it's a correction of the legal description in order to allow them to file to create the deeds for the property. So this happens occasionally with part lot control. Generally speaking, 9 times out of 10, they're always right, but then there's this one off. Either because our information from the applicant or even from, oh my goodness, assessment, there we go. Land titles is not necessarily correct. So that's what this is about.
Thank you.
Any more questions on this? Is everyone in favor? Great. Okay. Next one, moved by Mr. Vasey, seconded by Mr. Wolbett, that the report by Randy Burke, planner, dated November 28 regarding Silver Spring subdivision phase 1 assumption be received, and bylaw 139 of 2023 be taken as having been read 3 times and finally passed, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Any questions on this one? Mr. Wolbett.
Are all these lots filled in now? Like, they all have something built on them? Reason I'm asking the question, like, we still have the issue over there about lots too low and everything. Does that apply to any of this at all?
So. Actually, I gotta get used to this. Paul, did you wanna answer that? This is for Silver Spring subdivision. Regards to the vacant lots or. I'll take it. You're right, Councillor Wolbett, there is about 2 or 3 lots left in phase 1 that have not been built upon yet. So they are not constructed, so they don't have to meet the overall grading plan, but they do have to meet common law and our bylaws. The grass has to be maintained. There cannot be substantial standing water on the site, whether or not they are vacant or not. So those bylaws will apply, continue to apply after assumption.
Due to the complaints that were brought in here at the last meeting, that will be People will be happy with that, the neighbors and stuff before we sue.
Yes, please.
I would suggest the vast majority of the complaints that were discussed last meeting were in relation to phase two. As there is only one or a few lots in phase one that are unsold and unbuilt upon at this time.
And have any of those, if you don't mind me asking, have any of those lots been filled back in? They were filling some lots in down there, right? I don't know here. I meant to go over there tonight, but
I'd have to check on those lots directly myself. I haven't recently done so, but again, they are privy to our bylaws. They must be drained in a manner that they don't adversely affect the adjacent property, do not have significant standing water on them, and they must maintain the grass according to our bylaws.
So that would allow us to carry on with the assumption by law.
Yes, sir.
Pass it. Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Ms. Rodriguez.
And no, I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but I feel so cautious in the sense that we've had so many development lots get turned over and then there's a problem, and then either the ones developed properties have to fork out the bills to deal with things. I just want to make sure nothing's missed.
Although I cannot anyway absolute guarantee that not a smallest item was missed. My understanding from talking with staff is that the majority of the grading certificates in phase one have been received. Anything that outstanding, there's a game plan in place to bring them into coordination. Even if those gradings are still outstanding out after assumption, our building bylaw still requires them to repair those grading, and we hold the deposit to ensure that. It's a huge deposit, but there is one. So there is nothing on the site that would prevent us from pursuing the bylaw legally at this time.
And if I remember correctly, that we are going to be adjusting that fee,
That was suggested in the previous report. Yes, ma'am.
so that will come to us at some point.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, tonight?
Yeah.
They'll think about it. Yeah.
Maybe, maybe.
How did I miss that?
7 o'clock. Yeah. Building fees. So for sure, there's no drainage problems there, that we're going to assume this and assume the drainage problems.
We wouldn't be assuming the drainage problems. Drainage problems, if they lie on private property, are still a private property responsibility to rectify. This is assuming the
Just the
works
street.
as a whole and the streets and the infrastructure associated with those works.
Okay. So is everybody clear on that and in favor? Good. Carried. So, bylaws. Any correspondence?
Not action required, of course.
Action required, none?
None.
Thank you. So will we just take a maybe 10-minute break till the next public meeting and then we'll continue then, right? 6 minutes? Yeah. Okay. We'll be back in 6 minutes then. Anyone who's viewing virtually. Thank you. Oh, we're back on track here. Call meeting to order. It's a public meeting for hearing on the 5955 South Plympton Road. Please note that this meeting is being broadcast and recorded. Recordings will be made available on town's YouTube channel. I don't need to do any land declaration. That was part of the first.
It's not pecuniary interest.
Any counselor has a pecuniary interest, please declare it at the appropriate time. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment would amend the town of Plympton-Wyoming zoning bylaw to correct a mapping error of the boundary between the agricultural A1 and woodlot zones to accurately reflect the boundary and area no longer in the woodlot. Confirmation of notification process. Who did that? Ms. Meekins or Burke?
It was myself. I can confirm that notification was sent to neighboring properties within 400 feet of the subject land 20 days prior to this meeting. It was also posted on the town's website as well as on the town's Facebook page.
We will now hear the summary of the planning report.
Thank you, your worship. I'm gonna be taking this one in the next item, so. Good evening to you and members of council, members of the public attending online. This is the first of two rezonings you'll be dealing with tonight, and each of them is in the opposite order. So we're going from woodlot on this one, we're going to woodlot on the next. So here's the subject site located, real view of the property. It's what I call a through lot all the way from London Line back to the 402. And as your worship mentioned, this is a correction of a zoning mapping error to correctly delineate the extent of the woodlot. Council will recall that this was brought to your attention in August at the August meeting, and you provided direction on this application and to bring it back as quickly as possible, which is why we are here. We can go to the next image, Lisa. So this is the extent of the zoning bylaw amendment that is before you this evening. So this is what will change on the Schedule A to rezone from woodlot to the A1, which will then allow for the property owner to develop a new single detached dwelling on the site. And we can just go to the last image. So this is the Schedule A to your bylaw, which shows the numerous zones hazard A1 on the site. It's hard to see, but you can see where the bend is there with the woodlot, which reflects the corrective change. So staff is recommending that council adopt the bylaw to allow for the corrective rezoning change. Thank you, your worship.
Are there any questions on this? Mr. Vacy?
Yes, thank you. Was this a mistake in the mapping, or was there trees there when they set this in and now the trees are gone?
Worship, the mapping of the woodlot zones is done based upon a study that was done by the county across all municipalities. What it appears to be, and we continue to look, is that there was tree removal and it was done it was done properly. There was nothing untoward. And the mapping just never got updated. So this is not uncommon for relatively minor issues like this. We don't discover them until an inquiry comes along. And that's why you have the amendment process, which is why we brought it forward to you. We went through all of our records to see what we could find. The county's tree lots officer, as well as the conservation authority, have been involved and all have been of the opinion that the corrective rezoning should proceed.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you. I believe we discussed this previously, and this is just public, where there was a house. And when it was built back in the day, they removed the trees or whatever, and there was nothing wrong with doing so at the time. And now where it came up, correct?
Correct. That was in the August council meeting.
No, I'm good. We discussed this quite some time ago. I'm good with the rezoning.
Any comments from the public? Everything's going on pretty good, so. Okay, moved by Ms. Rodriguez, seconded by Mr. Wolbert, that the report by Ken Lawson, Manager of Planning and Development Services, County of Lambton, dated December 1st, 2023, regarding a zoning bylaw amendment for 5955 South Plympton Road be received. Any discussions or all in favor? Carried. For the report. Report, yes, yes. Yes. So, oh. Question, we've had questions, but nothing from the member of the public. Any further questions or comments from council members or members of the public? Any further ones? We shouldn't have any further ones now, should we? So. The zoning by, moved by Mr. Basie, second by Mr. Wolbert, the zoning bylaw amendment 124/2023. Being a bylaw to correct mapping error boundary between the A1 and woodlot zones at 5955 South Plympton Road be accurately reflect the boundary and area no longer in the woodlot, be taken as having been read 3 times and finally passed, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Oh, yes, there is an appeal process. So how many days is it now for an appeal process?
It's still 20 days from the date in which the notice of decision is published.
So, in case you want to appeal. Moved by Ms. Rodriguez, second by Mr. Bougen, that the public meeting be adjourned. That one, you have a question, Ms. Rodriguez.
Oh, sorry, I had a question on your appeal. Clarification.
What?
You said there was an appeal.
There is an appeal process, and that if he if he doesn't like it, then he can appeal that.
Right, so that was gonna be my clarifying question. Is it just him?
No, anybody,
Or anybody?
anyone who's been notified.
Oh, anybody who's been notified, so not within a certain distance or,
Well, that'll be the ones who have been notified.
okay, so what is that?
I thought
Oh,
200 feet, 200 meters.
400 feet.
400, close enough.
that's all.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, all in favor of the public meeting be adjourned? Carried? Thank you. So that one's done. The next public meeting won't be until 6:30, so why don't we go back to our other general meeting and we'll go through the correspondence. Maybe that would be next, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Give me 1 second. What?
Yeah. there's-
Later down.
No, these are for, that's for the, yeah, he signed. it.
Oh, perfect.
I'm pretty sure Lisa asked him to sign it. Okay. Oh, you did. Okay,
Okay.
yeah, you did sign it.
Just let me get back to the regular agenda, sorry.
Okay. Second by Ms. Rodriguez, that correspondence item A relating to recommended reading and routine and information items not otherwise by resolution be noted as received by the Plympton-Wyoming Council and filed accordingly. Any questions about any of the correspondence items? Having none. Is everyone in favor? of This motion? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I am thinking, I just booked
Waiting
up my
back for you to-
computer here. Sorry, Madam Chair. I do not have any questions on that.
Okay, carried. Thank you. New business. Anyone have anything they want to discuss, Mr. Wolbert?
Just one item, an individual asked me, the lights, that proposed lights at corner of Broadway and Confed. Any of that construction slated to go ahead this fall, or is it all? Sorry.
Wolbert?
Your worship, that is being, that's under detailed design right now and scheduled to commence probably in spring, summer of 2024.
Sir?
No?
Nothing
New
planning
business, new business, new business. I don't, it's not really new business, but I had some comments from several people. Out around the bird lanes, you know, in that area that they had to boil water and everything, they were so pleased with the way it was handled. And they were pleased with well, they got phone calls, they got letters at their door, they had people actually knocking and they were just amazed at how it was handled and I heard nothing but good reports. So how's that, folks?
Very well done.
Yeah. Good one. And that's in new business, so now the closed meeting session is gonna take a little longer than 20 minutes probably, will it? So what do you
The
think?
closed meeting session.
Well,
We'll
okay. So we have a 20-minute break till the next public meeting.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
What are we gonna do in 20 minutes?
Not
20-minute break for the next public meeting. See you then.
This is Monday.
We're ready.
Santa has left the building.
Okay,
Going back to,
so I'll call this meeting to order,
turn down that.
6:30, and it's to discuss a zoning bylaw amendment, 125 of 2023, which is at King Street, 0 King Street. Please note that this meeting is being broadcast and recorded. Recordings will be made available on the town's YouTube channel. So, I ask that, and councillors have any pecuniary interest to declare it at the correct time. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment would amend the town of Plympton-Wyoming zoning bylaw to rezone the remnant lands from severance application B 1321 from the existing residential R5 and R5 withholding zones woodlot to protect the remaining woodlot in its natural state. So I think you can see by the names on the front of who everyone is. So we would like confirmation of the notification process. Let's make it.
I can confirm that notification was sent to all neighboring properties within 400 feet of the subject lands 20 days prior to this meeting. It was also posted on the town's website as well as posted on the town's Facebook page.
Thank you. So it's been moved by Ms. Rodriguez, seconded by Mr. Bougen. That's a report by Kenneth Melanson, Manager of Planning and Development Services, County of Lambton, dated December 1st, 2023. Regarding a zoning bylaw amendment for 0 King Street, the property adjacent to 6734 King Street be received. Any questions on this? No, never mind. We'll wait for the questions after Mr. Melanson's
I
report.
was gonna say, is there?
Sorry.
For two
No,
words.
no, no, we want you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I should say, Mayor. So this is our second application for this evening involving a woodlot. This time we're going to woodlot as opposed to rezoning from. So the subject site is located on King Street adjacent to 6734 King Street and is noted here on the aerial photo. This, just to give council some history, the property owners began the process of a severance in 2021 and under official plan policies in order to create the lots that they have proposed. An environmental impact study has to be done in order to show that there's no negative impact to the woodlot. That was scoped, reviewed, and accepted by the Conservation Authority. So the extent of the lots proposed in the 2021 severance application are acceptable. And the woodlot in that area can be removed to allow for the lots. As the application was progressing, one issue came up related to the remnant lands, as the width of the remnant lot does not meet the current zoning bylaw for the R5 zone. It is slightly too small. And so a minor variance was processed, and a conditional approval of that minor variance was to rezone to woodlot. So you can see on the subject diagram that the severed lots are in purple. The retained lots are in blue. The retained lot is essentially a flag lot. So the portion that would be, for lack of a better term, the flag pole is slightly too narrow for the R5 zoning. And a lot is a lot is a lot. And what happens is when you sever, it has to meet the zoning bylaw. We would not normally support a minor variance for a lot width because of your urban design policies and a number of issues that creates. So we were looking for a creative way to actually deal with this issue. Just off of the photograph to the northwest is actually a conservation authority piece of land that is a woodlot, and itself, that land is actually zoned woodlot. And that was the inspiration of our process, that we would be willing to support a conditional approval of a minor variance, that minor variance be temporary, subject to the condition of proceeding with the woodlot rezoning, which the property owners have agreed to, and that's why we're here tonight. Just to finish up my presentation, as we always do, we have evaluated the application in terms of the appropriate policy and found this application to be acceptable. We do note that while the settlement area will lose out on some productive land for residential. That impact essentially is one lot because we would not normally allow the remnant lot to be developed because it is substandard and the urban design policies don't normally support this sort of characterization for neighborhood development. So really the impact is you'll lose one lot in this particular area, which I'm more than confident will get made up somewhere else throughout the settlement area within the town. I will note, though, it's important to understand that both in your official plan and in the county's official plan, there is one specific policy. And I wanted to address this issue because we had this come up, and some of you may recall this issue coming up in a development further down King Street about access to woodlots. And as noted in the official plan, it's not intended that this woodlot rezoning is going to provide the public access to this lot. That's not what this rezoning does. It's not a public park. This is a woodlot that's being retained on private property, so accessing that woodlot you have to have permission of these landowners. If you don't, that is trespassing. And this issue has come up before when we had some subdivision applications further down. So I wanted to make sure that it was on record. This is not a public park. This doesn't provide public access, but it does retain your natural heritage. It does achieve your natural heritage policies and retains the balance of the woodlot system. So we recommend approval of the bylaw to allow for the subject rezoning. Thank you, your worship.
Badger?
Thank you. I just have one quick question. So this retained woodlot is tied to 6734.
Through your worship, no, it's not. So it's similar owners. The ownership may be within that family. Originally, we thought that it was going to be consolidated. That's where this whole issue came up, and it's not. So in order for us to proceed, we needed the minor variance because of the width of the parcel, but it will be retained in that family's ownership. Is my understanding. They are here, so they can nod and confirm.
Just because I know there's been some issues with people not knowing that that woodlot is not theirs. So yeah, so I just don't know.
They know now.
I know. That's all I had. I'm fine with it.
Thank you. So the development that's going to retain ownership.
You know,
I guess I'm just trying to understand where you live in relation to this woodlot.
Live in the yellow spot.
yes, so through your worship, this family owns 6734. And this was all, the parcel before it was severed was also in their ownership. So if you think about what's in blue and what's in pink, that was all one lot unto itself within their family ownership. And so 6734 is not changing. It stays within their family. The lots being created will stay within their family, and then the retained will. Not sure if you can jump to the applicant side too.
Yeah, is it okay? I can clarify if you want. So, I'm Chelsea. I've seen the committee adjustments many times, but not this council fully.
Just stand and.
Okay, yes, of course. Yeah. So as, Mr. Lanson confirmed, so my aunt and uncle, Sue and Ted are behind us, and they live in the yellow portion. My uncle Ted himself owns the other portion, which is blue and pink. That's why it became a little complicated because the ownership is held personally by him and then by the two of them jointly. So when we went to do the severance application, it was supposed to merge with 6734. It became a little complicated for title and inheritance, and they are severing the 3 lots potentially for family to build houses beside them, and figuring out who was to inherit that and what that was to look like. It just didn't make complete sense with what our plan was. So we came up with this unique idea to have it severed. It will still be owned by Uncle Ted. And the lots will be divided for the children, and then 6734 will stay with Ted and Sue.
I guess I just think down the road, right? Family may no longer be there.
Right.
Yeah, just this individual piece of woodlot.
Right.
That nobody may want to take, I think we're dealing with that.
As of right now, that portion is fully undeveloped, including the 3 that are, essentially a big empty space on King Street. So we believe that by keeping this little portion and then maintaining the woodlot, it provides, you know, I did submit a statement that I thought you guys all got to read, but I think it only gets read by the planners. But it is in line with the provincial policy statement in allowing to keep, like, maintain the ecosystem and have the woodlot and have this natural heritage area and have everything protected. They use it as like a maple syrup area and like the kids run around there and stuff, but also allows for a little bit more development on King Street, which is in line with the plan, you know, the plan of the township and growth for the community, especially in a spot that's already super developed and a wonderful spot to have these houses for family. So I get that possibly in the future, I mean, hopefully it will be like generations and generations and generations down the road, because we want to keep this in our family, and then through the years, it might become, you know, a question. But at that point, maybe someone will enjoy it and use the maple syrup farm and maintain it as a place for their kids to run around. I feel like, you know, having the balance of both of those things is seemed to be completed by having, you know, this application, the access, so that someone in the future can still have that. And again, you know, we're developing all around here. Maybe someone does want that. Maybe like an adjacent neighbor or someone in the new development is like, 100% I want this to be for my kids and my grandkids in the future. I think that it kind of has a nice balance, that we get to develop some land on King Street in a perfect spot, and then also save this amazing spot for the family and generations.
It's wonderful. I just worry about it getting abandoned, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Becoming a problem.
Yeah, no, that's
Hopefully.
fair. I guess at that point, the title
I
owner.
think we're good for about 40 years.
It's good.
After that, it may be something that we have to donate to the town.
Good, thank you.
Any more questions?
No.
Mr. Wolbert?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get my head around this. I used to live on King Street, 67.
Oh.
So I'm just looking at this. The northern part of the blue there, that's conservation? Is that conservation? Is that, who owns that? Still private? No,
Yeah,
not here, blue, but just to the north of it?
Yeah, through your worship, the remaining portion of the woodlot that continues north is part of, if I'm not mistaken, Key Holmes development.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one, yeah, we didn't really want to take on, right? Because trying to keep people out of it and control of it. Now, you're gonna retain 4.62 acres. Is there any, there's no road allowance left going into that 4.2 acres or anything?
You look at the side of that yellow piece there.
Yeah.
It's,
Oh,
16 feet, I think is what
I think it's 16
the
meters.
original planner had recommended, so that's what we've done.
just 16 feet, so that really only an easement, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying, I'm just saying, you know, just always look at this, but sometime that 4 or 5 acres, you know, is a pretty ideal area out there. So was there any consideration at all for leaving an allowance? Obviously, you don't have the room, I guess, but to leave a 66 feet allowance going in.
If we'd have removed one of the lots. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's why we're not doing that. Because we have no intentions of developing it.
Yeah, you don't, but it's funny how
That's
that.
what I mean. 4 years from now,
Yeah.
it'll make one lot, maybe. I think this is what Ken was talking about.
And actually, one thing to keep in mind, through your worship to you, Councillor, Will, that by granting the rezoning, once the bylaw comes into force, the minor variance that was approved ceases to be valid. That's actually a condition that was built into its approval. So it's essentially a temporary variance to get us to this point, and then will cease to exist. So what will happen is the lot itself will be zoned woodlot. So if anyone wanted to come forward to develop, they'll not only have to rezone it, but if they were rezoning it to R5, they'll need a variance again. So the variance will stop as of this bylaw coming into force.
The reason I asked that question is I'm always looking forward, especially King Street, but if you see where Timber Ridge Road comes out there, I used to live about 3 houses to the north of that. What they did was they took a house out of there. Road is there, and that's how they put the road in. So I don't know what your future plans are, but always a consideration to keep things open if you can. So you may not want to right now, but who knows what the future
I won't be around when that.
Yeah, neither one, we so. Yeah, I just thought I'd bring it to your attention.
Our kids will keep it in the family for more than
Mr. Sabansky?
Yeah.
Your worship.
You were done?
Gi-
Yeah, I'm done, thanks.
given what the environmental study said for the Key Homes property, which prohibited development within those woodlots due to the species at risk, I would strongly suggest that it would be very much a challenge to develop the remainder of that property, given the environmental nature of the property and the restrictions that council is considering putting on it today.
Highly unlikely is where I would.
Okay, so was there any correspondence?
No, there was no correspondence received. None of the neighboring properties sent anything in. And the agencies and such that we asked for comment, none of them had any particular comments for these lands either.
And there's no more questions from anyone? So we're all in agreement and in favor of this accepting Hanson's report? Yes, yep, thank you. Carried. So now. We'll by Bougen, second by Mr. Vaden, bylaw amendment 25/2023, being a bylaw to rezone the remnant lands, disturbance application B 1321 from the existing R5 zones to woodlot, taken as having been read 3 times and finally passed, and that the clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Any questions? Is everyone in favor? Here, thank you. So. Ms. Rodriguez, second by, that the public meeting be adjourned. All in favor? Here. So that finishes this public meeting. You go, Mr. Cooper. Elsie, what is your last name?
Yeah.
Oh, Miss Cooper.
Cooper too.
Oh, you're Cooper. Okay. So, well, yeah, there is an appeal period. So. You're aware of that. Okay, so. Anyone has 20 days to appeal, and after that, you're home free for a while. For 4 years, 40 years. Forever.
For a while. I'll stick around for a bit, Nate, just to
All right,
drive you crazy.
yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you done?
Huh?
Are you actually done?
So I guess we'll have another break until 7 o'clock.
Good to go.
So we're back at 7 o'clock. We're gonna have a public meeting about building permit fee review. Please note that this meeting is being broadcast and recorded. Recordings will be made available on town's YouTube channel. So, declaration of any pecuniary interests, please declare them at the appropriate time. The town of Plympton-Wyoming is proposing to amend building permit fees following a review of the building permit fees under section 7B of the Building Code Act. The effect will be to increase the existing fee structure. All council is present, from staff. Could I have confirmation of notice? The notification process?
As this doesn't pertain to just an individual lot, it pertains to everyone in the municipality. Instead of having a mail out to a specific people, it was advertised in the independent newspaper so that it was somewhere that is circulated to many of the residents in Wyoming. It was also posted on the town's website and it was sent to local builders and developers as it directly affects them. All this was done on November 16th and it was posted to the town's Facebook page as well.
Okay, I have a motion here moved by Mr. Rajan, second by Ms. Rodriguez, that the report by Aaron Korchak, clerk, dated November 22nd, 2023, regarding building permit bylaw Schedule A fee amendments be received in that bylaw 134 of 2023, being a bylaw to amend the Schedule A to a bylaw 46 of 2014, be taken as having been read 3 times and finally passed, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign said bylaw accordingly. Any questions on this? None? My goodness. So would you like to maybe give us a quick rundown of what this is?
Sure.
Entails.
So after the October meeting where council gave direction to proceed with option 2, staff did proceed with option 2, and that's what you can see presented in the comparison table of the suggested fee increases. It also suggests deposits be received in many more cases than were requested previously. So the only thing we're amending today by this bylaw is the fee and deposit structure. Full bylaw will come back in the new year. Looking at some other ways to encourage clients with the deposits and further language that needs to be updated in the bylaw. But this is just the fee schedule. So the bylaw will remain 2014 with the new fee schedule effective January 1st. And also there's a note in the bylaw that says these fees will go up every year. So we can be more, rather than waiting 10 years, we can keep more in line and continue to go with the ebbs and flows of the market.
Any questions of this report?
Can you just explain to me, because I'm not reading it that clear on, are we losing money on building permit fees? Or are we making money?
Your worship.
Yes, go ahead.
So in the October report, which is also attached to my current report, we did lose. Last year, we had a big loss and we dipped into our reserves for over 200,000. That was a compilation of 2020 building permits and COVID, flowed over. There's a lot happening. So Lisa's highlighting it there on the screen for you, Councillor Wolvet. So we still have a reserve of 300,000. I did say also in that report where we're already looking at a shortfall of 25,000 on August 30th for residential permits there. So we, by the end of the year, add in the last 3 months, we're going to be dipping into those reserves again. So those reserves will need to be replenished, and that's why we're raising the fees now. And then as the year goes on, we will raise it based on CPI so that we go up cost of living to make sure that we don't get in the situation again where we're needing to withdraw big, large amounts.
Yeah, so explain to me a little bit, if you don't mind, about county does our inspections and all that.
Yeah.
Do we pay 100% of their wages? Like why are we losing money? Like, I understand it's cost recovery, I get it, you know, but if you're building a house and this is what you cost for building permit fees, inspection and all that goes into it. Like, why would we lose money?
So the fees weren't cost recovery. They're from 2014. So that's why we got into this loss. There was just so much volume. And inspections are taking longer, and the fees that we pay them in mileage and staffing have gone up. And in 10 years, we haven't reflected that change.
That's what I was kind of looking for.
So-
What's the county charging us? What's
And
happening?
that's changed, you know, over time, but it's also changed from, you know, what may have taken an hour or 2 hours to do inspections could be 3 or more hours now. So there's more time spending there. So then times that by their wage, the bill we're getting is higher than what we're bringing in per permit. So this brings us up to a 3-hour average, say for a single family dwelling times 9 inspections. If it takes 2 hours, that's great. If it takes 5 hours, we've balanced it out with the ones that have only taken 2. So this is kind of what riding that average wage.
So just to follow up on that, if you don't mind me asking, do we actually, now you just said 9 inspections, and that's what I've heard too. We take a look at what other communities are doing for housing inspections.
I believe it's required by the Building Code Act. It's not
They
anything.
have to go that many times.
Yes.
So we do look at other municipalities, exactly what they're doing.
So there was attached to the last report, a comparison to other municipalities and their fees. But we can't change the amount of inspections. Those are required by the Building Code Act.
It's like a lot of communities have their own building inspector, right?
Yep.
That's why I'm asking that question. So I wonder what our neighbors do, how many times they go out, and what do they lose money, and what their fees would be.
So they don't have a choice on how many times they go out. It's the Building Code Act that says if it's this kind of structure, you need to go this many times. But their fees are what the choice is. So the chart that Lisa's brought up there shows our comparators. So what our neighbors are doing. So Lambton Shores and Sarnia were our closest comparators, although we have higher residential permits than them at this time.
Fair enough. Some clarification.
Good. Yeah. Any other questions? So. Is everybody in favor of this motion of accepting Aaron's report, clerk's report? Carried. Moved by Mr. Belgian, second by Mr. Vacy, that bylaw 134 of 2023. I didn't have any other questions before this bylaw gets, or did I?
Public attendance.
No, there's no public.
Presentation.
No, okay. So that bylaw 134 of 2023 being a bylaw to amend Schedule A to bylaw 46 of 2014 be taken as having been read 3 times and finally passed, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Any questions on this? Any different questions on this one? None? Oh, everyone in favor? Carried, thank you. That brings us to moved by Mr. Belgian, second by Ms. Rodriguez, that the public meeting be adjourned. Any questions? No, I'm just kidding. Everyone in favor? Carried. So that brings us to moved by Mr. Belgian, second by Ms. Rodriguez, that council move into an in-camera meeting of council pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended for the following reasons: litigation matters. Section 239(2)(e), litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. At this time, everyone in favor? In favor?